Band of Brothers didn't make its cast famous. It did something heavier. It bound them forever to a true story they could never outgrow. When the series aired in 2001, it wasn't watched the way most television is watched. It was absorbed. No cliffhangers, no spectacle. Responsibility, not fame. For the men who portrayed easy company, success was never the goal. But the series changed their lives anyway. It reshaped careers, deepened credibility, and permanently tied their names to a legacy heavier than applause. Some careers accelerated, some grew quieter. None of them walked away unchanged. So what really happened to the cast of Band of Brothers after the world took notice? This is the story of where they came from, what the series demanded, and how each carried that weight forward. We begin with the man who carried the moral center of the series, Damian Lewis. Before Band of Brothers, Lewis was a classically trained British actor, respected on stage and steadily building his screen career. He appeared in theater productions and British television, known for discipline and emotional precision rather than celebrity. When cast as Richard Dick Winters, Lewis faced a role defined not by heroics but restraint. Winters led through calm judgment, accountability, and quiet authority. Lewis embodied those qualities so completely that the performance became the spine of the series. After Band of Brothers, Lewis's career accelerated with purpose. He moved seamlessly between British and American productions, starring in Homeland and Billions, earning Emmy and Golden Globe recognition. But Winters never loosened his grip. That standard followed Lewis into every role that came after, whether he wanted it to or not. As the story continues, we turn to Ron Livingston. Before Band of Brothers, Livingston was already familiar to audiences through contemporary roles like Office Space. He often portrayed modern disillusionment, characters shaped by irony and quiet frustration. As Lewis Nixon, Livingston stepped into a far heavier emotional landscape. Nixon was intelligent, flawed, and deeply human, carrying both privilege and internal struggle. Livingston's performance captured the toll of war not through action, but erosion. After the series, Livingston continued working steadily across film and television. He appeared in dramas, comedies, and long-running series including Sex and the City and A Million Little Things. His career favored consistency over spotlight, and that restraint mirrored the man he portrayed long after the uniform came off. What Band of Brothers proved was something television rarely admits. The most important performances don't make actors bigger. They make the story heavier and harder to escape. From there, the focus shifts to Donnie Wahlberg. Before Band of Brothers, Wahlberg was widely known for his music career and earlier film roles. Recognition came easily. Credibility had to be earned. As Carwood Lipton, Wahlberg found a role defined by steadiness. Lipton wasn't the loudest voice in Easy Company, but he was the one others leaned on. Wahlberg's restraint quietly rewrote how audiences perceived him. After the series, his acting career gained new depth. He went on to star in Blue Bloods while also taking on producing responsibilities. And even as his career expanded, Lipton remained the proof point that leadership doesn't announce itself. The narrative then turns to one of the most difficult roles in the series, portrayed by David Schwimmer. Before Band of Brothers, Schwimmer was one of the most recognizable faces on television, known globally for Friends. Comedy defined his image, making his casting a deliberate risk. As Herbert Sobel, Schwimmer delivered a performance marked by rigidity and tension. The character was deeply unpopular. Silence. That discomfort was intentional. Sobel represented leadership failure and its consequences. Schwimmer resisted caricature, choosing complexity instead. After the series, Schwimmer consciously diversified his career, moving into directing, stage work, and selective roles. And that performance, uncomfortable as it was, became impossible to forget. Next comes an actor whose future fame was still far beyond the horizon, Michael Fassbender. Before Band of Brothers, Fassbender was at the very beginning of his screen career. Largely unknown, he learned the craft through discipline and small roles. His appearance as Burton Pat Christensen was brief, but authentic. After the series, Fassbender's career grew steadily, and then decisively. Hunger, Shame, 12 Years a Slave, Steve Jobs. Today, it's almost surreal to realize that one of the most intense actors of his generation once stood quietly in the background of Easy Company. A reminder that foundations are rarely loud. The journey continues with Tom Hardy. Before Band of Brothers, Hardy was fresh out of drama school, still forming his screen identity. As John Janovec, his role was small, but his presence wasn't. Even briefly, he conveyed intensity that refused to be ignored. After the series, his ascent was unmistakable. Bronson, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, Mad Max, Fury Road. And looking back now, it's hard to believe that this trajectory began so quietly, inside a story that never let its actors forget what it stood for. The cast of Band of Brothers did not emerge as celebrities chasing spectacle. They emerged as storytellers entrusted with history. For some, the series became a foundation. For others, a turning point. For all of them, a standard that never loosened its hold. Band of Brothers shaped not only how audiences remember Easy Company, but how these actors carried the weight of their profession. And if this story stayed with you, it's because Band of Brothers wasn't unique. Other casts carried the same weight, some never put it down. Those stories are waiting in the playlist, because some legacies aren't measured by applause. They endure through remembrance,